Several communities in Northern Ontario are looking for an image overhaul, and it's anything but a superficial exercise. Claude Sharma is our Northeast Ontario Hub editor, and he joins us now from our studio at Laurentian University in Sudbury to explain. Welcome.
Hi, Jan.
Now tell me, why is there a push to rebrand cities in Ontario's Northeast?
I think there are different reasons, Jan. So much has changed over the past 20, 30 years, especially when it comes to job loss and the declining population. All you have to do is look at Smooth Rock Falls, north of Timmins. That place lost about 45% of its population since 2006, when its pulp and paper company shut down. And also, too, these cities haven't really branded so much over the past couple of decades or so. So it gives them a chance to refresh, to update their current vision, their current goals, and it allows them to showcase themselves not only on a regional or provincial stage, but on a national and international one as well.
Tell me about the difference between rebranding a town or city versus a company or product.
Well, I think there are many differences. I was speaking to someone from Story Engine. They're a place branding company in Edmonton and in Vancouver. And they're saying there is just a more of an emotional exercise when it comes to branding a city. You got to think about the people there, the culture, jobs, education, public policy. When a product has a more clear vision, and a product like beer or toothpaste, it's kind of easier to sell and to brand than it is for a city like Toronto, when there are just so many different complexities involved.
Do you have any examples of rebranding efforts in your part of the province?
Yeah, so starting off here, where I'm living in Sudbury, the Economic Development Corporation did it in 2014, getting a new image, getting a new slogan, Canada's resourceful city. And it's kind of just opening up their borders to say, you know what, we're open for business, come here and invest in Sudbury. Sault Ste. Marie is going through that branding exercise right now. They're almost done it. So what they want to do is consolidate what they're known for. So they have a bunch of slogans. So the Steel Town, they are naturally gifted, which is their official slogan. And they're also the alternative energy capital of North America. So they want a clear vision so they can sell that to their people locally and those abroad. And also North Bay, there's a city councillor there who wants to rebrand. There's no discussion about it right now, but wants to kind of differentiate North Bay from Thunder Bay. And being someone who was born and raised in Hamilton, a lot of people down south still confuse North Bay and Thunder Bay. And he also wants the rebranding to reflect its proximity to Ottawa, to big centers like Toronto, to show that people, you know what, we're not that far north, we're more in the heart of Ontario, and that we want to do business with people and companies in those bigger areas.
Okay, let's talk city logos and slogans. This is usually the first thing that you see if you're driving up the highway, whenever you get to a new city or town. How much of a difference does this do in the image of a city?
Well, you just speak to the people who recently branded, and they say it's a big difference. Now, we look at Timmins. They went through a community rebrand back in 2013, and they interviewed about 1,000 people in that town to see what Timmins is like. On the left, that's more of their corporate seal, which they still use. And on the right, it's Timmins. It's showing the sun, the opportunities, the mining, the resources they have, and they have it. And their slogan is Timmins, I'm in. It's also in syllabics and in French. And it gives the people there real civic pride, and it's a great branding within the city. And another example, as we talked about Smooth Rock Falls, they made a real aggressive push. And their push was to attract more people to its city and more businesses by offering a 90% off of its surplus lots. And they've been successful so far. And if you look at the difference in the logos, you can see the modernization, which people have said more towns and cities that are rebranding are going for that fresher, more modern look. And they're looking, obviously, with this rebrand to get more of that population base, more of that tax base. But I was also told, too, it's not just about that snappy slogan or that nice new look. You gotta represent your city. You can't be fake. You gotta behave the way like your city does, and then worry about the logo and worry about the slogan later.
So tell me, how exactly can cities or towns be better at rebranding themselves?
Well, you got to be real. You got to be true to yourself. You can't just make up something and expect people to believe it. People can see through that. It's a very transparent time we live in now, so people can see if a city or a brand is being fake. And I was speaking with Bruce Mao. He's a very well-known designer. Currently lives in Chicago, but born and raised in Sudbury. And I spoke to him for the article on tvo.org, and he said what Northeast cities can do is really focus on urbanism and architecture, look into the future. And he gives me an example about bus shelters. A bus shelter in Sudbury looks the same as a bus shelter in Los Angeles, which is kind of weird because the weather is much different. And he says that with partnering with an architecture school here in the north, the McEwen Architecture School, part of Laurentian University, he says these towns and these cities can create beauty, create design, instead of just taking these ideas from the south and transplanting them here in the north that don't really fit with the narrative that these cities are trying to tell.
Can you tell me some places that have kind of mastered this rebranding?
Well, two that come up and two I heard from different people I spoke to. One is Iceland, and what they've gone through about 10 years ago was an economic crash, and then they had this big volcano that left their airline industry in flux for a while, but they rebounded quite well. So what they would do is they would offer a low-cost airline to people going over the Atlantic. So people in North America, before they make their trip to Europe, stop off for a bit in Iceland and experience what they have. And they parlayed that with a viral social media campaign that the president got on board with. And they showcased their humor, their beauty, and they invited people who have never been there before to come there. And they saw tourism spiking across the board. It's been down a little bit since the initial spikes a few years ago. And another place too is Austin, Texas, in a time where you're competing with bigger cities all over the United States and the world, and close by cities to Austin like San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas. I was told that they didn't really rebrand as much as they rediscovered what they already had there, and that was keep Austin weird. And it was a slogan that was brought up on the radio and coined on the radio, and then it kind of just snowballed from there. So they had a marketing campaign, and it is a university town, but they also let people know that it's very unique, it's very Austin, and that was one that I've been told is it's quite a success.
Now, we do have a snippet from a case study published in January 2017. I want to pull that up. It talks about that impact of that slogan. Now, it reads, "It worked for tourism, it worked for head office recruitment, it transformed South by Southwest from a music festival into one of the most important gatherings for new ideas on the planet." Mark Ott, city manager of Austin, as the brand developed, often said that when he had to make a difficult decision, I just had to ask myself, will this keep Austin weird or not? That is a city brand. That was Todd Babiak, co-founder of Places for People for Place Brand Observer. It's quite a unique idea. Now, I had asked you off camera how long you've lived in Northeast Ontario. You said about 10 years. That's correct?
Yep, more than a decade.
More than a decade. Tell me, you've seen some changes with some towns and cities there. Any favorites?
You can't do this to me. I'm covering all of the Northeast right now. So when I lived in North Bay, that was my favorite. Timmins was my favorite when I lived there. So Sudbury right now, I actually live in Azilda, just outside of Sudbury, or downtown Sudbury. So I'm going to go with where I live, just to be safe.
We'll keep it there then. Always a pleasure, Claude. Thanks again. That's Claude Sharma.
Thank you.
From our Northeastern Hub in Laurentian University in Sudbury.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.